Cities across America force law-abiding citizens into curfew as rioters and looters burn and smash. Protesters watch their cause undermined by violent hangers-on.
But I'm literally looking at my neighbors now and going, I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. My daughters aren't starving to death. I'll eat my neighbors.
Thank you for
Good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Written. Glenn Beck will have his own chapter as possibly the greatest synthesizer of big ideas ever to appear on camera.
There are dozens of videos and photos of Obama having flies land on him indoors at all times of year, and he'll be next to 100 people and no one has flies on him.
Does anyone have a question for Santa Claus?
Santa, do you have to wear a mask?
When I'm in my workshop with all my elves, we all are masked up in social distancing.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. Welcome to Player Stop Last Call. This is the Player Stop Podcast channel, the number one show where police meet society and culture. We're live every Wednesday on the YouTubes. Thank you for all the people in the live chats out there. Join us, a lot of paid members. And we've got, look, there's Deadleg. Deadleg's with us. It's fine. It's fine. Shit's burning down all around us, but it's fine. We're good. Actually, I just swore. And they just came back out on YouTube about that whole 90 seconds. First 90 seconds, you shouldn't swear. Ruined that. But you know what? If who just did that? The James O'Keefe. If that thing can just get scrubbed from the interwebs, if RFK is getting scrubbed from YouTube, I almost now wear that as a badge of honor to be scrubbed from YouTube. All the greats, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, RFK, they're all getting canceled. So, I mean, we should definitely join the list of the greats and get canceled as well. I'm just kidding, but I appreciate you guys all being here today. This is going to be a crazy show. We've got the Titanic Sub that's gone down. Lots going on with that. That's an interesting one to me. That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. Also, Hunter Biden pleads guilty. What does that mean for you? Not so much, but there is some drama being stirred up, making it a racist issue, which I think is hilarious, to say the least, or maybe ironic, to say the least. We'll talk about that. And then we have a colossal accounting era, which is equally as funny. It's a colossal accounting era that just so happens to put billions of more dollars, billions with a B as in Bravo or butthole or whatever kind of B you want to bitch, maybe. B as in brevity. We can go with whatever B is comfortable to you. B as in Bader, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Bader, B. Billions with a B just so happens to fall right back into the hands of Ukraine. And good, if our money's going to disappear, I'd rather it disappear to Ukraine. But I have a feeling, Josh, that that's not the whole story.
No, because when I started looking at, that's the one story that I stuck onto this morning. When I started digging, it started really, really getting underneath my skin. When I start looking at the amount of money that we have sent to this country in the last few years is astronomical. And then when we start comparing that to other things, like the entirety of a state's budget is way less than what we've sent to this other country. And we have no, why?
That was just an accident. So there's a minor accounting error. So we're going to get into all of that, guys. I wanted to say thank you so much to a couple of people really quick before we dive into all this. We've got Michael Hicks, Marines Bloodbath, Alicia Betty. I'm going to call her Alicia Batty. Sounds like a bandy. Brandy Heller. Any relation to Helen Keller? Yeah, Alicia, Brandy Heller. That was a dumb joke. Hack Attack. Oh, what's up, Hack Attack? I don't know who you are, but that's a cool name. Elijah Crabell and Toby. Those are all Street Cop
Street
level.
Cops.
Street Cop level guys on the Patreon. And that makes me feel good, man. Thank you guys so much for being Street Cops. But you don't have to be a Street Cop. Some of you guys can settle for being a trooper, and that's only $3 a month to get you back on the Patreon, get you lots of extra paid content, lots of extra guests. So lots of exciting there. We got our 1-year anniversary at Night Shift coming up next week. So that's going to be a fun show. You want to tune in for that. Today's show, Last Call, is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. It sleeps so good, it's scary. Listen, Ghostbed's probably the reason why you won't find me going on any of these Titanic excursions. It's hard for me to vacay because hotels, cruises, submarines, they don't have ghost beds on them. Now, I can manage it if I can take my ghost bed pillow or maybe my cooling sheets. By the way, I stay in hotels almost every other weekend. I never sleep in their nasty sheets with their nasty pillows. I bring my own. Once you have ghost bed sheets and the ghost bed pillow, you're going to do the same. Totally worth it. It's totally worth having your own sheets. Those things are gross, dude. I don't know. I get grossed out. I like staying in hotels, but I'm a little bit grossed out by the whole thing. But Ghostbed right now is having a 35% off sale. And then there are 4th of July sales coming up, and that is always an absolute banger. So get ready for that 4th of July sale. Have you ever gotten your loved one, Josh, have you ever gotten your loved one something for 4th of July? Like we get Easter baskets on Easter. Do you ever get something for somebody on 4th of July?
I've sent some bandages to some friends in advance
Sure.
and let them know that when they blew the fingers off, that they would at least be thinking of me while they were bandaging it up.
That is wise. Maybe that could be a new thing that we start, is that you get your loved ones something, and they wake up and there's like a bundle of fireworks and a ghost bed pillow or a new ghost bed mattress or the adjustable base and the frame. Right now they got 0% down, 0% financing. And that's if you have Hunter Biden credit. Even if you have Hunter Biden credit, you can get that. So that's what I hear. That's the word on the streets. Head over to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack today and get you a bed that sleeps so good it's scary. Ooh. All right. Speaking of scary, here's a shark, a 1,200-pound great white shark off the coast of Florida. I followed this thing for years. I was a surfer in Florida. I grew up surfing in Florida before I joined the military. All I did was surf. Now that I'm a cop and I've raised kids who are skaters and surfers, but surfing was my life. And I was fascinated by sharks. I've seen sharks in the wild. I've seen them not too many in captivity, but I've seen a lot of sharks in the wild. I worked on a deep sea fishing boat. I've caught a lot of sharks. A lot of experience with sharks. Always fascinated by sharks. And they've been following this great white for years. All around Tampa and the Gulf of Mexico, you can see this thing pop up when it heads lower down towards past the Keys and on its way down to the Bahamas or even Jamaica. I mean, this thing is everywhere. Now they live in North Carolina. I've been watching them track this one massive shark. I want to say this thing is like pushing like 14 feet, close to 2,000-pound shark that goes all the way off like Nova Scotia. It comes back down to North Carolina, works its way up back towards Maine. And, it's a massive shark. Comes around spring break every year around the New Jersey area, gets pretty close. Then it goes way the frick out, way out into the ocean. You know where it goes, Deadleg? You know where it gets really close to?
Where?
The Titanic. It always goes towards the Titanic. Now, listen, you could go on the interwebs right now and you could just type in shark tracker and you can watch the track of many sharks. You can type in Maple or you can type in all these other shark names and you can watch them where they go. And this particular one, it goes all up around the Titanic and it comes back. They've been following this thing for daggone years. Do you know what depths a shark can go? You know how deep a shark can go recordedly?
Maybe a couple 100 feet.
10,000 feet.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's down there.
Feet. Yeah. Yep. 10,000 feet. These sharks are wild. But you know what? You know what the point of my story is here? You can track a shark for years and know everything about it. There's a viral video of Maple thrashing around in the ocean. They're like, oh, Maple's made her appearance, thrashing around and eating some fish. We can track these sharks. That ocean is vast. And if you watch the news, you watch CNN, you watch all this stuff about this Titanic submarine, you'll see that they talk about how hard it's going to be. It's a needle in a haystack. We're tracking sharks for years. And you're telling me that some billionaires don't have the sense or the mind to put whatever devices that you attach to sharks who are smaller than a submarine. I mean, these sharks are close to the same size as that submarine, but you know that submarine, you know it's going down. You don't know where Maple the shark's going next. You don't know if she's going down to the Gulf or if she's heading over to the Bahamas. You don't know, but you know where the submarine's going. It's a one-track pony. It's not like they're diverting to Disneyland. It's like you're going down and you're coming back up. And you don't have the technology to track this fucking thing going straight down and straight back up. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy or anything. I'm not. I'm saying is, don't you think that's a little dumb or a little maybe mismanaged somehow? Don't you think that technology is pretty easy to kind of... I feel like sharks are running into a lot more stuff, grazing up against a lot more stuff. Because one of the theories with this Titanic Sub thing is that it has, and now this is the most terrifying theory. By the way, for those of you who are living in a cave or haven't left your patrol car in 3 days, there's a missing submarine that's got a couple of billionaires that have gone down 12,000 feet, roughly 12,000 feet in the Ocean Gate Titan to go down there and explore the Titanic for 250 G's a person. And so it has gone down, and within 45 minutes, I think it was into the exploration. Or was it 4 hours?
Hour and 45 minutes into.
Hour and 45 minutes.
That's when they lost contact.
They lose contact. Now, it was down there. It was at the Titanic, right? When they lost the contact.
It was on the way out. It went down around 8 in the morning, it said, and they were starting to descent. And it was supposed to be pinging every 15 minutes. But an hour and 45 minutes, they lost the ping, and then they've heard nothing from it since.
But at an hour and 45 minutes, it would have been to the bottom.
Typically, it takes 2 hours, it says, to reach to the bottom. So 2 hours down, 2 hours back up, 2 or 3 hours
Yeah,
back
but
up.
let's just say hour and 45 minutes,
close.
You're within 15 minutes, give or take. Now, that's just when they lost contact, which means that, if it's every 15 minutes, maybe they made 15 minutes at the hour and 45 mark, and that was the last ping they got. So 15 minutes later, bam, their ping's about to go off, except they ran into the Titanic. Right? That's a theory. I've heard this by scientists, okay? So it's got to be true. Scientists know everything. But this is one of the theories. They were pretty damn close when they lost the ping. So one of the biggest theories is, well, let's start here. Let's start with the simple theory. One, the best case scenario, it sprung a leak and everybody from pressurization exploded. Boom. Guts everywhere. They're dead. That's best case scenario. Second scenario is they have a malfunction and they have to resurface. The current takes them way down. They pop up. They're just bobbing just above the surface and we can't find them. Pretty terrifying, especially now because they're only down to just hours of having oxygen completely gone. By the way, this submarine, if this isn't terrifying enough for you, they are bolted in from the outside. So there is no way out except through the outside. And it's 15, I think it was 15 bolts that I read that have to be taken off with a certain tool, massive tool. So even when they do find them, they have to have the special socket thing to get these things off. Which, probably isn't that hard. But let's just say a cutter finds it, right? They might not have this wrench. Hopefully they do. But the most probable scenario is they made it down and bumped into the Titanic and are stuck on it. Meaning they have 7 flotation devices, 7 fail-safes to get this thing back to the surface. The only reason it wouldn't come to the surface is A, it's imploded into a small beer can, or 2, it's stuck. And there are a lot of things that get stuck on down there.
And I can add to your stuck. Captain Frederick of the Coast Guard, since Sunday, the Coast Guard has been coordinating search efforts with the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard, Air National Guard in the Pacific, and the Polar Prince. It's the Titan's mother. It's the name of the ship that it was supposed to be. In a search combined area of 7,600 square miles, basically slightly larger than the state of Connecticut.
Yes. Now, if you're stuck at the bottom, You have a very tiny bathroom. They've already been instructed not to eat before the voyage so that they didn't have to go to the bathroom. But there is a toilet, but it's like a camping toilet. It's like a road trip toilet that you poop in your car. You have to dump that somewhere. It stays in that sub until it can be dumped. That's probably the least of their problems. But right now, if they're stuck on the bottom, they have had to meditate, breathe, control their breathing, control the amount of carbon dioxide that leaves their mouth. They are in full survival mode, and their only chance of hope is somebody getting down there to get them. And I think, frankly, we're out of time now. So they will eventually just fall asleep from this, and that'll be the end. A couple of other interesting points. A couple other points on this thing too is that these are the first non-scientists, I think, that have gone down to look at the Titanic. At least I read that somewhere. I don't think I ran that through you, the fact checker, but I read that they were the first non-scientists to go down. Something else that's interesting is that they were all rich elites, and I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about the controller, the gaming controller. I don't know that there is any conspiracy, because I don't think that just a non-scientist can go down there and kind of come up with anything. It's so dark, and your window to see things is so small. I don't think if there was some kind of conspiracy, I know some people think that the Titanic was blown up, or, that JP Morgan, was that what it was? Yeah, JP Morgan's had something to do with it, which there are a lot of crazy coincidences. Like, they backed out in the final hour. They didn't want to go on the boat. However, some people that were voting against them were going on the boat. I don't know. There's a bunch of cool stories out there that I'd love to get into. But I think even if you're just like, you're just a rich dude going down there to see the Titanic, you're not going to be able to be like, wait a minute, this thing didn't, So I don't know that there's any reason to have an assassination attempt on a Titanic sub. But what I think happened, man, either they've imploded like a beer can or they're just stuck. I don't think there's anything nefarious. But what I do find odd is that we can't track this thing.
Well, let me ask you this question, but to get to another point to kind of help further this train along. If you were to get into a sub, would you want one that I designed, or would you want one that some dude that's been doing this for his entire life has designed?
The guy his entire life.
Well, the guy that runs his company, OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, told an interviewer that, quote, "When I started this business, one of the things that you'll find, there are other ex-submarine operators that are typically have gentlemen who are ex-military submariners, and you'll see a whole bunch of 50-year-old white guys. I wanted the team to be younger, be inspirational, and I'm not going to inspire a 16-year-old to go pursue marine technology, but a 25-year-old, who is a sub pilot or a platform operator or one of our techs can be inspirational."
Are they the ones that came up with the PlayStation, the aftermarket PlayStation controller to control this thing?
That's the CEO of this company that built this thing. So that's the mentality of the leadership. So they're not going to hire the best people for the job. They're going to hire the people that fit the narrative for the job.
Wow. It's just all that stuff's going to come out. Now, they're already talking about, where are the regulations? We need to start regulating this. I actually watched a YouTube video, and I just saw so many comments about people are like, this needs to be regulated. They can't just have people going down. I don't understand. If you have $1 billion and you want to risk it all to go down there and get a glimpse of the Titanic for a few hours, why is it any need of the government or any civilian to regulate what you want to do in international waters with your billions of dollars? If I want to jump out of an airplane with no parachute to see that if I can skim the water in such a way that I live, or if I die, I die, but I want to do it for science, who is it any government to regulate what I want to do with my billions of dollars? And why do we as a culture or a nation or a universe, why is the first thing we want to is we need regulation? Why do we want to live in neighborhoods where people tell us when to put our garage doors up and when to put them down? We choose to live in a neighborhood governed and regulated to death, to the point where you have just Karens knocking at your door and leaving nasty grams on your front porch. Why do we want to live in an area where is just regulated to death. I like why aren't we obsessed with that? Is our obsession with regulation should be what our obsession with freedom is. Like we should be. I feel like you should be trying to get more land, get further away from homeowners associations, further away from developments, further away from neighborhoods. Which, by the way, neighborhoods aren't safe. Neighborhoods like I live around like 3 or 4 people. The chances that one of them is a kidnapping serial killer pedo, slim to none. If you live in a neighborhood with 30,000 people in it, bro, there's a great chance that one of them is a pedophile, kidnapper, serial killer. At heart.
When I first moved back from Hawaii, Dad and my stepsister, she was, I think, 13 or 14 at the time. She was younger. She was in her teens, but she was younger. And one of the first things that I did is I looked up our sex offender registry to see who lived close to us. And the guy that lived behind us had multiple charges.
Dang.
So you don't think that I sat on the back porch and made sure that I knew where that dude was every time he walked out to mow his grass. Like, if you're in these cities, that's where, I mean, you can't throw a stone and not hit something. You got to get out of this.
Cupcakes and Cameos. I haven't seen Cupcakes and Cameos in our chat before, so thank you for joining us, Cupcakes and Cameos. She says, if they let any old Joe Schmo billionaire do it without any training in preservation techniques, then it can end badly for the ship. You're talking about for the Titanic, like as in it goes down there and destroys some things on the Titanic. Yeah, maybe. I mean, as if it hasn't really been destroyed enough. I mean, I don't know that a little tiny submarine, but I get it. I can see where I can see where you need to regulate. Maybe.
I would say if a bunch of guys want to go build a submarine and go play in the ocean, have at it.
Maybe I would say to be fair with Cupcakes here. I don't know if I trust government funded backed submarine builders versus private submarine builders. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's just because you're not backed and regulated doesn't mean you can't do it better. I would
almost argue this, saying that private funding you'll get faster, because I'll use my example as SpaceX.
Yeah, I get it, Cameo. It just says that they risk damaging it further. I get that.
So
You're
does
right.
10. Those what are the like 13,000 feet of water?
Yeah,
that's also causing a little bit of damage as well. Not to like poke the other side of it, but I always like to play the other side of the coin.
No, yeah, I get it, and I don't know how much damage this little beer can thing could do, but you know, I get if you had like, you know, it's kind of like Everest, right? You have just thousands of people up on Everest, and the littering is really bad, and it's gotten out of control. But I don't know that this one's going to get out of control. It's not like there's I don't think that's where the regulation's going, though. I don't think the regulation has anything to do with the Titanic, as far as like, you know, people are upset that they put their lives into danger in these extreme vacations. On the other token of that, when you're a billionaire, every vacation kind of, I'm sure when you have billions of dollars, every vacation is the same, right? Like there's nothing fantastical. You've done it all, right? You're a billionaire. You've done it all. So the only thing that is new and adventurous is something like this. Now, me being a peasant and middle class C student, you know, I'm fine with just going to Disney World. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to go see the Titanic. I have no desire to get in a submarine and go see but for somebody who goes to Disney World all the time, for somebody who goes to eat the finest sushi off of the hottest naked girl in Japan, what all these rich people do to feed this desire because they've done it all. I guess the next step is to get on the Titanic. But I do, at the same time, Cupcakes, feel like everybody is very quick, just in general, to want more regulations. I don't know what's better for the environment. Have a whole bunch of houses stacked on top of each other in, 35 vast acres, or to have one landowner that has 1 acre and he's surrounded by 3 acres of woods. I don't know what's better or not. But I'm, generally speaking, I'm kind of against regulations or over regulations. We regulate things to death. Case in point, the whole YouTube thing, right? We've got this big thing. We got RFK being super silenced from the Democrat side. So I don't know. Are the Democrats now just going to hate RFK like they hate Trump because he's not Biden? I mean, are we at the point where we're just going to listen to whatever the DNC or the RNC says about a candidate to go with? I think the fact that we're not allowing RFK to have a debate and for letting the American people decide who their candidate's going to be. Same on the RNC side, that we're not going to do these debates to see who's going to run. I mean, I think the people definitely want something other than Trump and Biden. Personally, I think that would be a good running. But RFK a month ago, 2 months ago, we thought to have zero chance in running, and that's why. And now he's making a huge mark. He's putting a huge dent in Biden's running case. It's all over. Mainstream media is even covering it at this point, that RFK is becoming quite the headache for the Biden presidency. And we already see that mainstream media, YouTube's included in this, silencing RFK. Now, I'm not going to make the argument about silencing Trump because I think 50% of the country would say he should be silenced and the other 50%. So that's 50-50. But I don't know how many people would want to silence RFK running against Joe Biden. Don't you want to hear what he has to say? Don't you think it's a little bit questionable that we've already tried to make this guy out to be a complete anti-vaxxer, but not listen? I mean, one, I think that his interview with Joe Rogan this last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, one of the best, another banger episode. But you're getting to hear the whole story, or the totality of what he thinks and how he thinks it. It's not as black and white as he's an anti-vaxxer. And I think if you're a Democrat and you have any kind of open-mindedness, or if you're at all objective, then you should be very upset with the censoring that's going on with the RFK. Because, listen, I talk to a lot of Democrats, and equally I talk to a lot of Republicans that are sick of Trump too. So I think that it should only be fair that we get to hear from another candidate and not just shun the other candidate like they're doing with DeSantis. But nobody's taking a break to think that, like, okay, 50% of your base doesn't want Trump, and 50% of your base doesn't want, basis being like 50% of Democrats probably don't want Biden back. They would take another option. And 50% of Republicans probably don't want Trump back. They would like another option. But both of the options on the Republican and the Democrat side are being murdered, meleeed by the mainstream media. And then their base is kind of following suit. And nobody's taking a second to go, like, hang on, why does the Democrat base want Biden so bad? And why does the Republican base want Trump so bad? Like, what's so bad? You're telling me that those are the only two people on the country, on the face of the earth, that have a chance at being a good president of the United States? But what they're doing right now with the RFK thing is what they've been doing with Trump this whole time. But I think a lot of people are kind of celebrating it, falling for it on the left. And I thought the left would be more like, this would be their kind of awakening, where they're like, wait. You're telling me that Biden's my only choice and you're not going to let me even hear RFK? And I thought that's the stance a lot would be taking. But what they're saying is they're buying into what exactly mainstream media says. They're like, no, he's an anti-vaxxer. No, he's really just a conservative wrapped in Democrats' clothing. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know if I would go as far as to call him an anti-vaxxer, as more as that. Listen, this is a good point my wife brought up. Women died in the late 1800s, early 1900s from lead poisoning in the paint of their clothing. Was it any nefarious activity? No, but we just didn't know that their clothes had lead paint in them. And so if you had somebody back in the day that said, maybe you shouldn't be wearing those clothes, they've got lead paint in them, what are you going to call them, a conspiracy theorist and a white ring nut? And how dare you talk about my favorite clothing brand and suggest that the lead inside the paint might be bad for you? Just like whenever I say, like, maybe you should, like if RFK is saying maybe you shouldn't have your Wi-Fi on while you're sleeping next to your head, because all of these Wi-Fi things could be like cooking your brain, or, I'm not going to go back into exactly what he said in Joe Rogan's podcast, but like, that doesn't make you a conspiracy theorist. That makes you kind of like, I should be questioning that thing. If the women would have questioned the lead paint in their pretty green dresses back in the day, they would have lived a lot longer, a lot healthier. They wouldn't have caught on fire so fast, or whatever it is. If we paid attention to mercury in fish, if women in fish, I love the point that he brought up about, like, we're okay with women having mercury in fish, but we're not okay with women having mercury. But we're fine with women having mercury in their shots. And then he says the study shows that it's gone from the bloodstream in 2 days versus mercury in shark or in fish leaving 2 months. But then the new study showed that mercury went straight to the brain in 2 hours. So it went to the brain and left the bloodstream and stayed in the brain. But nobody wants to talk about that and what kind of damage that's doing. So just the objectivity, what's going on right now. Very, very interesting. I think it's very sad that they took the RFK interview down off of the YouTubes this week. And the fact that we can't talk about, what was the next story we were going to talk about? BlackRock, right?
Yep.
We can't talk about BlackRock today because YouTube is scrubbing it all. So there was an undercover interview with a BlackRock agent who says that, I'm not going to say what they said because we're going to get taken down off of YouTube again. And Drew's
might be able to say
that YouTube channel up. But.
Yeah, we might be able to talk about it on Patreon. But James O'Keefe basically has an employee from BlackRock that's a recruiter, and I'm not going to say his words. You can go listen from his mouth what you can do with money, who's in control, because everything that we've come back to with the show. When we start asking questions, the first question I always ask is, where's the money? Follow the money. And that's goes into our next topic that we're talking about is the money, the taxes. How are you going to get off of all, you're going to get no jail time. You're going to do nothing whatsoever. And it's just going to go away.
Well, the tax stuff I expect. I don't expect any politician to go to jail for tax evasion. I mean,
but he's not a politician. He's his politician's son.
Oh, he's a politician. Yeah, whether he wants to be or not, he's a politician. I mean, he's worked his way into Bank of America. As soon as he graduated college, he was, big time, making well over 6 figures at Bank of America with no experience. Now he's making, what was it, $80,000 a month, something like that. On the Burisma, sitting on the Burisma board with no prior education or knowledge experience. I mean, listen, all the politicians, they're all making money. You can go back and look at each politician, see how much money they've made. Even on the Republican side, these guys are all doing it. Look at the Bushes. Look how rich they got. Pelosi, look how rich she's got. Chuck Schumer, how rich he's got. I mean, these guys are all, and they have CPAs and all these financial people backing them, and their money's going all sorts of places that I get it. They're all doing it, right? So if you're going to throw one in jail, you'd have to throw them all in jail because they're all nefarious with their tax monies. But what gets me is the gun thing. This is a gun charge in a very politicized gun climate. And what right now, what's surprising the hell out of me is that they're making it a race thing because they're naming all the black folks who have been charged, rappers. What was the rapper's name?
Kodak Black.
Kodak Black. Same charge. Now, Kodak Black also was charged with rapes and sexual assaults. Probably had a much bigger reason. But you look at Hunter Biden, he's got a lot of shit under his closet too. Nefarious, cocaine dealings and all these other things. So, but how is it that a black person from a low-income household has the same gun charge and does no less than 3 years? But then you have a white rich elite, that's going to get 0 time for the gun charge. And especially in a time when gun activists are, kind of at the forefront right now in mainstream media, a lot of talk about gun reform and those things. So that's a very interesting case to me. I'm not, like I said, I'm not so shocked at the tax news just because I kind of feel like they're all doing that. Am I wrong? Am I way off?
But it's one of those where if we're gonna start looking apples to apples, they start pulling up all these other celebrities and all these other people in power and people with money that have paid millions and done time for tax evasion and tax problems and not paying their taxes and filing their taxes. So we have perfect examples of, yes, there's enforcement of this, that we have this blatant example of this is cut dry. We have the receipts. Not only that, they didn't look into this. They didn't look into nothing in the laptop. We're going to say this is what it is. He's going to plead guilty to it and it's going to go away. It's done. It's over with. At the same time, What does this tell me as an American citizen? That I can go do whatever the hell I want on my taxes because I can use Hunter Biden as my precedent. Because when they go, well, we're going to charge you with this, I'm going to go, okay, well, you charged him with that and I want that deal. What do I have to do to get that deal? And if they say, well, you have to be the president's son, then we have a problem. Then there's a serious problem in our justice system. Then every bit of the rules and every bit of the governance, everything that we have is a sham. It only works if everybody believes in it, because everybody believes in it, it'll be applied equally. But if the law's not going to be applied equally and we're just going to go willy-nilly, although you got a former president being charged with 37 counts of criminal conduct against Donald Trump. At the same time, we have this laptop. It has how many crimes on it? You want the tax crimes, you want the gun crimes, you want the pedophilia crimes, you want the sex trafficking crimes, you want the bribery crimes. What crimes do you want? How do you want him on stage with 2 forms of ID, social security card, his mom in the background vouching for his existence, and then he reads exactly what he did? How much has to happen before we go, now we're going to hold him accountable? Because I think
it's been proven to the American public, not just this time, but time and time again. Look at what was the payout with Clinton where he exposed himself, and then they just paid out and like never denied it, never said anything about it. They just paid it out, and the woman went away.
Or all of the stuff that the Clintons stole from the White House when they left, and then they used fundraising to pay half of that back to. They didn't get charged, nothing. They used their position to try to pay off crimes that they had done.
There's a lot of crime. I think the American public has either become numb to it or immune to it, but it seems like maybe now with the way technology, listen, TikTok, unfortunately, is such a weird place to get news, but I have to really go through some fact checking, but there's some smart people on TikTok making some pretty creative content. And I think the government's real scared of that. Because it's pretty unregulated, man. People got to say whatever they want on TikTok.
Their Twitter is getting to be about that same way.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going out on Twitter too.
And we're able to debunk stuff almost in real time.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to see, traveling, video travel super rapidly. I don't know. The American people are either going to fall. I don't think the American people are the type to just fall in line, even left and right. I think the majority of people in the United States, at least, fall in the middle. They're just forced through mainstream media to pick a side. But I think people are smarter than that. Unfortunately, mainstream news only is going to show you one type of person in the United States. But I think if you get out, as much as I do, if you're out of town every other weekend and you're in these rural areas and cities, I think you kind of get more of a picture. I think you said it correctly. The news is only showing what's going on in New York and LA and Chicago and the big cities, but they're not really showing what's going on in the rest of the country. They're kind of pinpointing these certain types of cities, and then that's the only news you're getting is the opinion from that city. But I don't think you're really getting the opinion from the suburbs. You're not getting opinions from the country and some of the things. So I'd like to think that the veil is being lifted, and I think people are going to start standing up for all this. I think it's crazy how this Burisma thing kind of shifted this week. It went from being top news 3 weeks in a row to all of a sudden on a Friday, somebody may or may not have died, and now we're just not talking about it at all now. Like, how did it go from the biggest news to a potential even crazier news because it appeared they got assassinated, and then all of a sudden nobody's talking about any of it. It's just gone.
15 tapes, 15 recordings. 2 of them include the sitting president.
This was the biggest news for 3 weeks. We covered this 3 solid weeks. You know how passionate I am about that case. Great case, super exciting to look into. And now it is just gone almost at the peak. It was like we were climbing this mountain. We got to a false peak and we could see the real peak. And we just decided to say, fuck it, let's go back down the mountain. This is insane to me. Do we have any information on what happened with this mysterious death and this mysterious whistleblower that the FBI, the last statement we got in this case during the oversight committee hearing was that the FBI wouldn't release the whistleblower because they couldn't protect him. 2 days later, the whistleblower is dead. Allegedly. That's all I know. Allegedly dead. And now it's gone. Like, now we heard nothing this week about it. What's going on with that?
because they've moved on. They moved on to $6.2 billion in extra money we found.
But we found it, and we found it, on the side of Ukraine. Oh, that money went to Ukraine. Oh, okay. So now nobody gives a shit about the faux pas, But we're not going back to the whole the Burisma whistleblower, like the biggest whistleblower that has 15 tapes, 17 tapes of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden making deals where he split up $30 million between his family to potentially start a war, just like the Bushes did with Iraq, with Russia, and at the very pinnacle of this whole thing, the House Oversight Committee literally gets the FBI to say, we played that tape last week, I think. Did we not? I think we played the tape where it says we can't protect the whistleblower. Friday, the whistleblower allegedly dies. I call you. I'm like, this is crazy. We just released this tape of the FBI saying they couldn't protect the whistleblower. And now the whistleblower is dead. For the first time in the history of my existence, Google, when you try to Google it, comes up with an all-black page that says, due to changing facts, rapidly changing,
we don't know what
sources
to show
cannot
you.
be verified. We don't know what to show you. So they didn't show anything. Then over the weekend, they make fun of Rudy Giuliani, call him a conspiracy theorist, and then it's just gone. The whole Burisma thing is gone. No more whistleblower, no more House oversight hearings.
No secret form, no nothing.
This literally went from being on every mainstream media's platform. Everybody was talking about this, from Tucker Carlson all the way to what's the other guy out there that not Bill O'Reilly,
Hannity.
No, the comedian guy that was super left. Now he's
Russell Brand.
Oh, well, yeah, Russell Brand was talking about it. That's on brand for Russell Brand. I was talking about somebody else, but he had a nightly show that
Adam Carolla?
No,
Kimmel?
not Colbert, not Kimmel. I don't know. He's got white hair. I don't know. But anyway, he was all over it. I actually liked a lot of the stuff that he had to say about it too. I can't believe I can't think of his name.
I'm not going to say Trump exactly 100% word for word predicted this Biden, the tax thing, but he did say in his little rant after he got charged, because we got to think about the timing. The timing.
Bill Mayer. Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
When Trump's got charged is when all of this stuff with Hunter was supposed to be going out, but Hunter wasn't getting any coverage. It was all the Trump stuff that was getting the coverage on the news. So Trump said, "They're the party of disinformation. They'll hit Hunter with something small to make their strike on me look fair. Nothing about these fascists is fair or honest. Fight." End quote. Yep. So on June 6th, 2 weeks ago, the previous president kind of said, hey, they're going to give some charges to him and it's going to go away. And they're going to try to levy well, look, we did something for Trump and we did something for Biden.
Exactly. I told my wife that when she asked, I said, this is just like a quid pro quo.
Yep.
We'll make the American feel, we'll be able to swing this in the election as, oh, no, we're cracking down on politicians. Because I think they're really starting to see that the American public wants that. I think all these politicians need to be held accountable. I really don't understand why we're not doing term limits. I think if you voted on term limits, I think every American would vote yes.
Yep.
There should be a term limit for everybody. Yep. There's no reason you should work in government from the time you're 20 years old as an unpaid intern all the way until you're 75, never having a real job, never going out and seeing the real public, never leaving DC or Baltimore or New York City or LA or wherever, wherever the big, the big cities that host these big politicians. There's really no, it wasn't Jon Stewart. It was Bill Mayer. I mean, maybe Jon Stewart said some stuff about it, but Bill Mayer was the one I was referencing. I know that he was speaking out a lot about the Burisma stuff. Oh, by the way, no, never mind. That's too off the subject. That's my ADD. Too much coffee this morning. But yeah, I think term limits is a big thing right now, and I think that would fix a lot of this. Right now, I think we're just living in unprecedented. And I hate that word. And I mean unprecedented in the fact that it's from America, the Americans' perspective. This is the first time in America that we're just utterly and fully corrupt all the way around. Burn it down and start over. The cancer has spread all throughout our democracy. And nobody's, it's either we're going to lose the democracy or we're gonna cleanse. We're gonna go through a cleansing. We're gonna hold these guys accountable, and there's gonna be trials, and people are gonna be held accountable for what they've done, or they're just, why can't we just banish these people? You know what I mean? We don't need to throw them in prison and clog up the prison system and do all that. Just banish them. You can't come back.
Send them to Canada.
Yep, get out. By the way, I sent you that article, the Canadian article, like a week ago about the Canadian wildfires. And if you notice in that article, it talked about like just the influx of aliens fleeing the tyrants of the United States. Did you like that? I almost brought that up, but it didn't have a lot to do with my what the article was, so I didn't bring it up. But yeah, there was an article that I read from Canada, and Canadians, the article in the last paragraph that says that an uptick in fires is also accounted to the number of aliens fleeing tyranny in the United States. I think that's funny. How many people could possibly be fleeing to Canada?
I don't know that you'd leave like New York for Canada. I think Canada's a step up, if not worse, than our Democratic run cities. But I would say that there were articles back in 2020, 2021 from U-Haul and Budget about they ran out of trucks. They ran out of vans in California because people were leaving. So, it's not 100% completely untrue statement that there's refugees from the United States, but
I got no problem with it. If you want to put that in there, I think I can still laugh at it. I think it's funny.
But it's still funny as hell.
Like if you want to talk about illegal aliens coming across into a country, and we've dealt with it for 50s of years. We had the Cuban crisis. They've had all sorts of stuff going on. We've had immigrants from everywhere at every point of our history. So I love it how Canada.
Maybe it's finally turned around, Tansy. We're going to stop sending all the aid that we're sending to Ukraine. We're going to stop sending it to Ukraine, and Ukraine's going to start sending it back to us. So we're going to be Ukraine's going to be helping us out, so we can send American refugees to Ukraine, and instead of the other way around. So then the money's going to come back, and then all of our veterans are going to get taken care of, and the border wall is going to get taken care of. And we're going to be able to track that shark off the East Coast, and we're going to stop sending all of our military equipment over to Ukraine. This is a list, and it's going to be hard to read. I'm just going to go down. This is some of the equipment that we've sent: 10,000 Javelin missiles, 60,000 other anti-armor systems, 1,600 Stinger aircraft system missiles, 160 howitzers, 155 millimeter howitzers, 72 105 millimeter howitzers, 109 Bradley fighting vehicles, 31 Abrams tanks, 45 T-72 tanks, 2,000 Humvees, 354 tactical vehicles, 4 satellite communications antennas, 2 radar unmanned aerial systems. This is just satellite communication systems. This is just physical equipment that we've sent over. And then I pulled some graphs. This is the amount of money that we've sent to Ukraine since our invasion. Now, we were at war with Afghanistan for 20 goddamn years, Eric, and we sent $4 billion there.
Whoa,
we've sent $76.8 billion. And even this is outdated. There's actually $112 billion because we can't count. To give you an idea, the state of Virginia's operating budget for the entire state of Virginia for 2023 is $81 billion. We are now sending more money than a state's entire operating budget. At $112 billion, that is 1/8 of our military budget for fiscal year 2021. So 1/8 of our budget went to another country.
Gosh, that is so crazy. Ben Allen's in the chats. He keeps correcting himself with these little asterisks. Ben, you don't have to do that too. We're C students. We podcast for a living. We can figure out what your fat thumbs hit and didn't hit. You don't have to correct yourself. We're smart enough to get what you're saying. And we appreciate everything that you type out in here. Appreciate you being part of the live chats. But just know, a lot of people are trying to work and type at the same time. We're not gonna hold your feet to the fire per se. For you don't have to correct yourself. We can figure out what you're saying. But I appreciate you taking the time to try to clarify what you're saying. Animal cruelty help. That's their tagline. New to the chats, I think. I haven't seen that that name in a while. Why do I think this is all just a tiny portion of what we have? We left more or less the same amount in Afghanistan. They also had, that wasn't the one I was trying to read. The one I was trying to read was, this is a repeat experiment in other countries where more than half support a rise of a dictator. And finally, the dictator constricts, I guess, its grasp around their necks too. And then they realize they are all in it. I think you're right. But America's a little bit different. We're founded a little bit differently, and we're still young. I think we're still young enough to remember the history, and the history hasn't completely been rewritten yet. I do fear for the next generations and what they're being taught. And I guess it's something you kind of have to breed out. Generation to generation is that will to rebel, that will to question. And that's where it all starts now. That's why, hey, you want to be a successful YouTuber? Fall in line. Say what everybody else is saying. Don't question the narrative. You got a thing about anti-vax. If you're anti a particular vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer. No, I mean, there are real studies out there that show that certain vaccines really do have more of a risk than they have a reward. Like your chances of getting that disease versus the chances of having a negative effect from the drug is greater. And so you as an American or somebody that has a child or a baby, you shouldn't blindly just be like, oh, okay, well, there's 1 in a trillion chances that my son's going to contract polio at this point, but he has 1 in 200 chance of being autistic if I give him this shot. You know what I'm saying? Or, or he has a growth, formality. What's the word? I'm starting to talk like the dude in
deformality.
Deformality. You should, as a parent, that doesn't make you an anti-vaxxer. It just means maybe like you don't want to take that particular chance. And that should be something that we're able to talk about and have chats about and debates without being mad, without saying you're an anti-vaxxer, because that's not true. It's not true. We're not anti-vaxxers. It's just that we have some questions about, the mercury level in some of these vaccines is kind of alarming, and that should be something that we talk about. I think it is kind of questionable that we should keep all these 5G phones right next to our heads as we sleep, and then in our laps while we drive, and then in our pockets all day long. I don't know. I think it stands to reason that it could be bad. I think vaping all the time could be bad. Smoking all the time is bad. I think things within reason aren't bad, but we kind of tend to not do things within reason. We vape 30, 50 times a day. You drink every single day in excess, or you smoke cigarettes every day, or whatever the drug of choice is, so maybe I'm just old fashioned. And this is what the point of this show is. If you guys are tuning into Last Call, this show is not news. I'm not a journalist. I'm also not trying to regurgitate with the news, but we're trying to give first responders something else to talk about other than the job. This is a podcast channel. We do 5 different shows a week. We do Night Shift on Tuesdays, which is a little true crimey, little, kind of something to keep you up at night, keep you awake. We got Monday, which is some society and culture with a comedian, police officer, and myself, a little salt and pepper, a little black and white. He's black, I'm white. We go over society and culture shit and kind of humanize the badge. And then Thursdays, we have Comm Center that goes over just crazy communication stuff, dispatcher things, mental like some issues, that traumatic issues and how they're dealt with. And wow, this dispatchers go through so much. It's what's crazy. And then Friday's our flagship show where we break down a case with 30-year detective, retired detective, Drew Breezy. And that's where we really get in. Falconator, I do not vape. I've never vaped once in my life. I literally pull my hair out because I can't go anywhere without people vaping. It's like, what happened? Everybody just decided I want to start sucking on some plastic thing all the time. Like, it's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, I think smoking cigarettes is weird too. Like that we all just decided like, man, I want something like that to control my life. Like I want to have to take breaks because if I don't, I'll have headaches. Like I don't know what draws us to those things. I guess it's addiction, the nicotine. Do you. But it does drive me insane. I would rather my kids, I don't know. I'd rather my kids, I don't know. I'd rather my kids be a politician than vape. Nah, that's not true. I don't know. That would be terrible. If my kids vaped or wanted to be a politician, I know I failed them. Like I know I've messed up. But yeah, Friday shows our big breakdown and we love it. Animal Cruelty says it's a fashion statement. Sometimes, right? It kind of feels that way. Especially when you're pull up to the red light and you fill your whole car up with vape smoke and then you roll down your window so it just billows out and everybody on that street block is looking at you. Like you got to be doing that for attention. I'm just so the opposite. Like I'm the dude that doesn't want bumper stickers on my car. I don't really want to draw attention unless it's for marketing purposes. Like you're making money from it, then I'll do it. But you're not making money from your big giant globe and anchor sticker on your car and your big, Trump fan forever or, go vegan sticker. And like you're not changing anybody's minds either. You're just drawing attention to yourself. And it's just an easy way for you not to do it. It's hard not to draw attention to yourself on social medias if you're on there and stuff. But your car driving down the road, pretty simple to be the gray man there, unless you just don't want to be the gray man. And that's fine. But you need to admit, listen, I want all eyes to be on me. I want all eyes to be on me. And I do like the eyes to be on me. I just don't need them there all the time. I just don't need it. I like it, but I don't need it. Like if everybody just stopped responding to me, I wouldn't change anything I'm doing. I wouldn't go out of my way to try to get you. It's probably why our show grows, at 20% per month versus hundreds of percents. Animal says, I think it is for many. I rarely see one using vape to cut off on cigs. I see most younger people just vaping and think they're doing something cool. I agree with you. Yeah, I see it at the skate parks all the time. We're all worried about these same kids were wearing masks religiously while outside skateboarding, but they'll swap a vape pen back and forth amongst the whole park, which is kind of gross. That's kind of gross to me. I was actually at a poker game the other day, and nobody really knew each other at the poker game, and they were talking about the vape and the new type of vape, and she's like, go ahead, take a puff. You want to take a puff? You want to try it? And the guy was like, sure, yeah, I'll take a puff. Oh, that is good. That is good. But like, I'm looking at like teeth marks all over where this person's been gnawing on the sucking into the business end of this vape machine. I'm like, does anybody think that that's kind of gross at all? Like, we don't think that's gross.
I don't even like sharing a straw and a drink with my wife.
Yeah.
But I'm weird. I don't like if it's going in my mouth. It's not going in anybody else's mouth.
I'd make out with you because I know you, Josh, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
We don't
but
have
I will.
to.
I'll do it for Pride Month. Just to stand in solidarity. I'll make out with dead leg for everybody. But no, I hope you guys enjoyed today's last call. Again, just something to talk about. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You don't have to argue with me about what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to have the conversations at the barbecue so you're not just talking about the job. Or at least so you can have an opinion. I always say it's hard to go through life and make change if you can't have an opinion. And you can't have an opinion if you simply don't know. So for all you first responders who sit in your little meat wagons or your little patrol vehicles or your fire wagons or whatever, and you just kind of go with this, well, I don't do politics. I don't like politics. I don't do politics. Well, good luck changing anything because politics rule the world, baby. It's not, I know Beyonce says that girls run the world. We run the world. Girls run the world. It's not true. Politics run the world, And what did G.I. Joe say? Knowing
is half the battle.
Is 3/4 of the battle.
Something like that.
Joseph Russo, love your comment. That's pretty funny. Lumber Chef, you're hiding in ignorance if you reject questioning things. I agree with you. For all you new Patreon members, thank you guys. Lots of stuff, lots of content going out every single day on the Patreon. Lots of stuff. If you want to see more of Duke, Tansy, my son, and their podcast, head over to Grommet Vomit Podcast, GROMMET VOMMIT, Grommet Vomit Podcast. We were actually guests on The Bar Is Open with Beth and Greg, and it was such a fun and pure show. I couldn't be more proud of my son after that show. Really great. My other two kids are just a little too young to be podcasting yet, but we'll get them out there. Also, our Patreon episode, we did it with the author from Outside the Wire, a counterterrorism detective who was a detective in LA, Hollywood, and then Iraq. Ended up writing a fictional story about a crime that happened in Iraq, and he happened to be the only person qualified to solve this crime. It's a really fun book, and he's a really great writer. The interview with him was fantastic. It was super fun. His dad was murdered on duty while he was in the academy, and he still went on to just have an epic career. So if you want a good read and you're into some fiction, you've got Outside the Wire. What do we have on Patreon right now that's new?
John just put up he's going to send me new Hard Time. I put up a Dead Leg one last week. I recorded Dead Leg last week. Down the Pole episode 4 went out earlier this week. I recorded some stuff with Abby last week. I recorded some more stuff with Kiefer last weekend. So I've got a bunch of stuff in the process of ready to come out. And then John's got a bunch of stuff in the process of getting out. And then you've got your book that you're reading that you're going to get out. And then stuff that Drew's working on. There is all kinds of stuff on Patreon.
Yep. We also got a new sponsor coming on for the month of July. And so don't go in and support the sponsor yet until July, because we'll get the numbers in July. But this is going to be a lot of fun. Something we're going to do with 2 UFC fights going on. I'm really going to try to interact our fans, all the paid chat members out there. We'll join you guys in. We're going to do some fun activities with the UFC fights, some watch alongs, some betting, on the fun bets, like how long is small money bets on how long is the national anthem, what color are their shorts. That's going to all be done through mybookie.com. That starts in July. So wait a couple of weeks and we'll give you the whole project that we're doing with MyBookie, which I think is really cool, because I haven't seen MyBookie do this with a lot of other podcasts. It's typically, we haven't done it with them in the past like this. It's always been like an ad read when I've had a MyBookie ad. It's just been like an ad read, but this is more of like a collaboration, which I think is pretty freaking cool, man. I'm pretty stoked that I even got to talk to them on the phone and come up with this idea. So that's really, really, really cool. Nico the Greco says, standing outside the wire, Tactical Brooks. Oh, that must be a different book, because this one's Gary Edgington, Outside the Wire. But yeah, maybe we can get that guy on. Thanks for Nico the Greco for tuning in, guys. All right. Well, you don't do politics. Politics is going to do you someday. Animal Cruelty Help. That's funny. Love it. Thank you so much for being in the chats. I think you're a first-time chatter, so appreciate it. I hope you have a good time. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night for Comp Center. Totally different show with 2 awesome dispatchers. And they do a call-in show. So Animal Cruelty Help and who else was in there?
Nico.
No, Nico's been in here before. I think Ben Allen. I think I've seen Ben Allen a few times too, but try the call-in show, man. That's pretty funny. Just call in, leave him a voicemail or something. That's always something fun to do. All right, guys, that's enough out of me. You're going to work on some Patreon stuff. If you want to be a paid member, you want to support the show, you can always do that. By being a paid member or paid subscriber, but you can also just hit the like and subscribe button for free and get free 5 shows a week content for free. All we ask is that you leave us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go leave us a freaking review for free. It keeps this boat alive. It makes our sponsors happy, makes GhostBed happy, makes stamps.com happy, it makes RitPack happy, all those guys. So go leave us a rating and review, or just hit the like and subscribe button. Not that difficult. Until next time, guys, standing outside the fire, standing outside.